Hey y'all. Hey. Welcome to the Octavia Butler mixtape course. I'm Dr. Brianna Whitetie, and today we're talking about Adulthood Rites, which is the second book of the Xenogenesis trilogy, or formerly Xenogenesis. Now it's known as Lilith's Brood. Y'all, we are doing the Octavia Butler mixtape course. We've been reading, if y'all new here, we've been reading all of her works, her entire canon, and we are on it feels like maybe the 10th, 11, 12. Yeah, so we're on the 10th book of Butler's canon, and we are quickly moving along. We are in the realm of the post-human. We are in the realm of the science fiction. We are in the realm of the weird. We have heard children be referred to as mongrels. We've seen the limited production of male children. We've seen a lot. We've heard a lot. We've learned a lot. We have construct children. We know that we are back on Earth. And we know that we have human resistors. So there's a lot going on in this trilogy already. If y'all can, please go ahead and start tapping. Let's see if we can get up to like 20,000 hearts today. As we prepare to jump into the trilogy, wait for some more people to come on. If y'all want to come up here, y'all know what to do. Hit the two people at the bottom to join the panel. It cannot just be Tina and I up here chit-chatting and, kikiing. Today's quote or today's information is coming from a 1997 interview that Butler has with Marilyn McAfee and Anna Louise Keating. All right. And so I'm going to go ahead and read that. What's going on before this part that I'm about to read is the fact that Anna Louise, Marilyn McAfee, this is the person. She's asking Butler about bodies in the Xenogenesis trilogy. And E. Johnson says, can you put up the part 2 of Dawn video I missed last week? Yes, I put it up today. I'm sorry. I put it up this morning. Someone else asked me about it. Sometimes I forget, like I download it from TikTok to my phone and then I forget to, putting it on YouTube. But it's up there. It's my bad, y'all. I'm sorry. But what's going on in this interview is that Marilyn is asking about bodies in the Xenogenesis trilogy. And so this is where we're about to pick up. She says, related to my question about bodies changing in the Xenogenesis trilogy, and therefore, as Nakan says, ways of living changing, I'm fascinated by the third gender in the Xenogenesis trilogy and how it alters the mechanics of heterosexual couplings. Here's what Butler says. Butler says, well, the men don't like it because they feel they're being made into women, and that's not really what's happening. That's the way they see it because the men aren't at the top of the hierarchy anymore, biologically or sexually, hence why the Oankali are limiting the birth of male children. She says, but then the Uloi are not necessarily taking away any male functions. Genetically, the men are still male. But in the Oankali system, male doesn't carry the connotations of power and authority that it does in human systems. I don't know whether you've noticed there are two differences in hierarchy that a lot of readers and reviewers tend not to notice in the Xenogenesis books. One is that the Oankali have no traditional government. I think that matters. Instead, they come together by way of the nervous system of their various chips and appendages, and they get a consensus. That's how they make decisions. And the other is that the Uloi, who seem to have so very much power, make no personal genetic contribution to the offspring. It really hurts them in that sense. Not hurts them, but they're cut off in a sense from their own young. So those two differences bend the usual hierarchy. The Oankali are hierarchical, but not in the same ways as humans. They have some natural brinks on their tendencies. All right, so y'all, we here. We're in the middle of the trilogy. We got Lilith kind of fall into the background. We are back on Earth. We have people not happy with Lilith. We have resistors. We got Tino and his unaliving. We got Aiken and his twin or brother. We're seeing the birthing or the creation of construct children. Those are those hybrid bodies, those things that were called monstrous and the other, that are largely related in a lot of ways, if we think about historically, to biracial children. I'm also interested, did you all catch that reference to the phoenix in the text? Like, I don't know if y'all did. This is the first time I'm catching it on this rereading, that when Achan is in one of the resistor camps, he sees an image he doesn't recognize, and he's like, oh, what's this bird? And he's like, it's a phoenix rising from its ashes. Well, if you read Parable of the Talents, you know that was one of the Earthseed verses. In Parable of the Talents, Butler writes, in order to rise from its own ashes, a phoenix first must burn. Why do I bring that up? Because I'm always talking about the interconnectivity of Butler's works, right? So she is nodding back to Parable of the Talents. All of her works are interconnected, and she's very interested in rewarding close readers of her works. All right. We need some more people up here. We need some more people up here to kind of talk about this text. We do have the Substack questions, but we need some more folks. I want to know what y'all think about this, especially people who are interested in sci-fi. I know me and Shanandi, we ain't we ain't the Trekkies, but you know how it is if you're not a traditional sci-fi reader. So I'm interested in what you all think about this. We've read so much of Butler's works that you all can basically be experts on it. Any changes in her writing, any changes in the storyline, any world building that you may want to comment on, I am interested in it. Hey y'all, lactose intolerant. Hey Tina, good evening.
Good evening. So I like this book. This is one of my favorites. Well, this whole trilogy is one of my favorites because, like you said, sci-fi people. So I like this book. I find it extremely fascinating that I forgot this part, that they took them out of the Lowell village, and then now you get exposed to how other humans are living, the kind of society that they're doing, that they're like building. And so this is one of the things I love about Octavia Butler, is her world building is just top notch. It's just top notch. Like it takes some of the things that you know about, and then it extends out. So the whole thing with like we know what we're hoping for is probably not going to happen, but we're still hoping for it, and we are still trying to piece together what we had in the past. So that them building the Bible from memory from other people's, I was like, whoa, that's just dangerous as all get out. But like just that, or the fact that they had it's kind of like malicious compliance, kind of like, we know we're going to do this, and we know what we're hoping for is not going to happen. And I just felt like this is the same thing that happened with the parable story. That same thing, like you're looking for this and this is not going to happen, but you still are encouraging this building of this institute, all the rest of it. It also showed, I thought she did a good job in this first half of showing, at least in my eyes, as much as the Lord, I think that they know everything that they don't, and that they are very much they're driven by what they want, and they're like dismissive and like really not understanding why that matters. Like, why would you want to have sex with just you two? Why would you want to do that? This is better.
Yeah, I found it fascinating, this read, that as you said, they don't know everything, the Uloi in this book, and that they're leaving Akeem in this village to monitor and watch and learn, right? Yeah. Because they don't know. So this is very much an experiment, even though they were pushing humanity towards these lengths. They're leaving him there to watch.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just thought that was just, I don't know. It was like, so essentially he's 17 months, he's 18 months or whatever. And, he's not 2 years old. And I know that he's more advanced and all this other kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's been exposed to so much more than anybody would have prepared him for. Mm-hmm. So I just think that sometimes, like, from a sci-fi stand, like Star Trek or whatever, you see that kind of stuff happening on a regular, where, they'll send their children out and they got to fend for themselves and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not surprising, but it is interesting to me to just because they could pick like the whole like they don't know where he is. I'm like, they know exactly where he is. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, 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 yeah. And yes, let's stop there. Let me pause there because I went ahead. Yes, they know. But they're more interested in collecting the data. Like they're married to the data at this point, right? And they're willing to sacrifice up until the point that they cannot sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice the child, right? We know. Well, I don't think at this point we don't know Lilith. We don't know her feelings yet, but we'll find out really soon. All right, Tai Chi, lactose intolerant. Hey.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I echo everything that Tina said. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a sci-fi person, but I'm very science oriented. So I like where this is going, the continuation,
Mm-hmm.
what happened in the first book. I do like the world building. I like some points that I feel like we might get into at later on in this discussion is the fact that I think I talked about it maybe 2 weeks ago about how their way isn't necessarily the best way and how we need to come up with a kind of intermix or a balance between being hierarchical in a sense and just being purely scientific. Because as you guys brought up, they are willing to abandon this child. And while they may know where he is, he doesn't know that. So
Mm-hmm.
you're creating abandonment issues here. You are also kind of sanctioning kidnapping for the plot. You are also allowing other humans to unalive other humans for the sake of the plot as well. And then the most diabolical of them all is the fact that this little child knows that all of you are going to die.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah.
all of you are going to die. This is all for the sake of the plot and building a new ship. And I just think, um, I don't know, there was a lot of reverence in the first book of how smart these things are and how cool it is and how wow they don't have this hierarchy that tears them asunder, yet this is what they're doing to people. And not I don't think they're entirely different from humans and how we experiment with ourselves for the sake of whatever we want to do. So I don't know.
Okay, we're still early. And I'm very interested that a lot you two people, Tina and Taichi, you all haven't commented about the narrative flow because I think in another book we're like the first was it Dawn that things seem to be going slowly because Lilith was learning slowly, but now we see Aiken learning in that same slow manner. And I'm interested if your experience with his learning curve was different than the experience with Lilith.
I think it's I think it's faster paced because he understands more. And I guess that's how she plays on the fact how the constructed are more advanced than the humans, and then the aliens are way more advanced because they you just see her write about how they communicate, not telepathically but through their tentacles, but you never quite see how fast they learn. It's just that,
Mhm.
oh, somebody passes off the information through like a pill eye and they get it. And but going through Aiken's process, now that we're kind of from his point of view, it's he picks up things very very fast.
Mhm.
And he's now teaching other people things at his 17, 18 months of age. So
Mhm.
I do think it's a faster paced book. I do anticipate she's going to, it seems like there's a lot more action happening too. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's just my experience on how the
Okay.
narrative is going.
Lactose intolerant. Hey.
Hi. So I've been reflecting a lot on the importance of names in this book ever since you taught us like how intentional Butler is about names. And like the two that are really jumping out at me are, of course, akin, which is spelled akin, as in like or similar. And then also you can separate it to like akin, as in like family.
Mhm.
And I think both of those meanings I feel like kind of inform his identity of like where is he akin to, being this like construct.
Oh,
Like which family
yeah.
does he belong to, but also like how he is adjacent or akin to all of these groups.
I
Um,
love that. I do because generally the Owen Collie, the construct child is not separated from the Owen Collie family and his parents, right? So they form those kinship ties, right, early on. But when we stopped at that point, well, where we stopped today, he was kind of worried about being able to form ties with his other sibling, like the sisters were. And it seems like he's forming more ties with the human resistors.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and then I was also thinking a lot about Lilith, which we talked about, I think, the last couple of weeks. But Lilith is like a mythology that I have been looking into for a while, and then this got me to do a little more research. And kind of two interpretations of her, like really jumping out at me. Um, One as being maybe the like Okanali perspective of her as this like first feminist, because one idea of Lilith is that she was the first wife of Adam, but then basically because she wanted to be on top during fun times, she's banished from the garden because she didn't want to be submissive to this man. She gets banished. So in some ways, like going back to what you're saying earlier about the male hierarchy being threatened by the Okanali, in some ways she's the first feminist to say like, oh, actually, no, I don't want to live in a society that's dominated by men.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, from the kind of human resistor perspective, there's also this idea of Lilith as a demonic succubus
Mm-hmm.
that will come and visit men at night, make them have nocturnal emissions, steal their seed to impregnate herself, to make demon babies, and then like terrorize the world. So even though that's like kind of a very
Mm-hmm.
extreme reading of what Lilith is doing, I can see how that is reflective in the human resistor perspective. Like they see her as this corrupted demon that is trying to take their children away from them and create these unrecognizable demon children.
Yeah, and I think that spiritual reading that you just did on the character or the name or the entity is still believed in some of the charismatic movements at the fringes. That this is a succubus and they do come and sleep with men because the other version is the incubus that does the women. And that they do cause you to ejaculate in your sleep, men to ejaculate in their sleep, and then this spirit takes the seed and reproduces something in the spirit realm. So you're not far off there. You're not off there.
Thanks.
Melanie, hey.
Oh, I was in Portugal last week, so I missed the I listen, this book, I have so many thoughts. It's been traumatizing for me, absolutely, babes. And I don't know if in the best or worst way. The first book I struggled because just the way I was trying to imagine what the aliens look like, and that was a task. And in this book, it's only gotten more progressively worse because now I'm struggling to think of what these aliens look like. And now there are new constructs. And so wow. Out of the hundreds of books I've ever read in my life, this one has, wow, wow, wow. Particularly because of the way she writes in this book. It felt very, like, just very straight to the point. I can't explain it besides it's alien writing. Like Octavia Butler's voice in this book is it doesn't feel human in some instances, and that was a struggle. And then we're talking, it wasn't until the end of the book I was like, they having sex. Literally the last book is when I realized that at the end I realized that these people were sleeping with aliens. And now we are in this book and they have mated, and it's just never would I have imagined if aliens were to come, this is what would come of it. And it is interesting because, like we were just talking about Lilith, like this new being that's coming or that is now here, particularly Akin, and what he means and what he will mean in the future. This may not be her magnum opus, but this is up there for me for Octavia Butler because I'm almost done, y'all. I promise to God. The way she writes intersex or sexuality and gender, the way she writes about humanity, and that we go back to that hierarchical nature that she had mentioned in, I think, Kindred, or was it maybe it wasn't Kindred, it was in one of the other books that we've read, that these aliens are basically saying, like, the only thing that's inherent to us is the need to, like, end each other. Nothing else evolutionarily stuck besides we cannot progress because we don't value life or we're very selfish. And it's that cold, straightforward, calculating voice that is being used by Akin and his family to explain to us about us that is very... I'm traumatized. That's all I got. All right, that's the end. I'm traumatized.
When you mentioned struggling to imagine, and I should have dropped these in a Substack, but I probably will. Okay, so I'm gonna try to turn my computer around to show y'all like what some people doing research on Butler felt that this would be Nakanj, a good representation of what Nakanj might look like. Can everybody see that? Y'all, okay, so this is their representation of Nakanj. This is their representation of Jediah. And I do have an image from the archive that I'm gonna try to find as we're speaking here. Because Butler did save someone's early drawing of an Oankali, and she found it fascinating. But if y'all can imagine, my skin is crawling just looking at that. Because if you can imagine, and for them, let me give you this.
Okay, so
This is the original concept.
Oh, hell, sorry, no. And that's probably why I was so scary. It's giving Alien v Predator, but creepier.
if you guys ever saw Galaxy Quest,
Talk about a throwback. Talk about
watch
a
the movie.
deep
Look
throwback.
it up. If you look up Galaxy Quest, the group of aliens is called Thermans. This is exactly what I think it looks like.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, they've got all the tentacles, they got the arms, they got the big bulbous heads, they got all of this stuff going on. So every time I think about what they look like, I think about those aliens from the movie Galaxy Quest.
I also think it's important. Oh, I'm sorry, Tina. Go ahead.
The Thermians. And the thing about the Thermians is that they can morph into like having a more humanoid look, which I think about from like Aiken and then the other constructs that are going to come down the line.
Here, I know we don't talk a lot about book covers, but this is one of the book covers, right? And they're trying to appeal to a sci-fi audience here. This cover is very reminiscent of the Survivor collectible that I have. But a lot of the early books, especially in this trilogy, they do look like they have these alien-esque creatures on them. They do.
And that's the book cover I have from my public library. And the very first thing I noted is the sperm and the egg and the tentacles. And like if you show it again, so for those who don't know, like you have the sperm being touched by the tentacles and the egg being touched by the tentacles, so that Akin or the Oankali or whatever he'll eventually be, they are the middlemen between the new world or the new humans that exist. Because they are constructing us in our future. And it's like, it just scary, very scary.
It is. Here is the image. Let me pull this up. I'm probably going to drop this in the Substack. This image came from the archive, and this is someone's interpretation of what an advanced Oankali might look like. These came directly from Butler's notes. and she was very interested in this drawing of it. She doesn't have any sketches of the Oankali that I have found in the archive, but if y'all can imagine, no, is upside down. No, if y'all can imagine those things, and you being there having to, it's weird. It's weird. Let's just go there. Okay. Okay. So how do we feel about the fact that we're back on Earth? They kept their promise there. We're back on Earth. But they're sterile, and now they're resulting to stealing non-human babies that look human. How do we feel about this? Are we in a moral dilemma?
Well, absolutely, especially if you're stealing children that you're going to hate because they're not like you, but you want to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And then they effectively cannot procreate or continue whatever lineage whatever you're trying to do here, it can't continue or further without an alloy. And you know that, but you're stealing them anyway. It
Okay.
literally doesn't make any sense. And then the Owen colleague keeps saying, you can like come to us because that's the only way you're gonna have a kid. And they're like, no. And then they go run to another village and steal another child that they're
Yeah.
going to hate, that they're going to otherize, that they're going to talk about. Like they have heightened senses. They can hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
And which also human kids, they pick up on everything,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're talking about emotional cues and when you parentify them and when they're walking on eggshells for everything. Like all of this mimicking, and it just shows how, I don't know, is it the sentiment, is it the emotion that clouds the logic? Because that it logically, what they're doing does not make sense, and they know it's futile.
Yeah, I think that it's just the desperate times calls for desperate measures type of mentality. Like as you said, they know that they will hate them, and even someone in the chat said, the whole cutting off of the tentacle talk was rough. Like they want these children to look as human as possible, but they have a hierarchical desire for children. They have a desire to have children because they've been cut off from their generations, as Zora Neale Hurston would say.
And then I'm also pissed at Tate because you're sitting there sanctioning this, right? Knowing that it's futile because you have two brain cells to rub together, right? Still. And then you're still going, well, it gives them hope temporarily. So you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna just continue this, and for your sake, you better not tell them about anything.
mhm.
And it's just like, okay, so at what point? I just can't wait to get to the end of the book when they really realize that all of this stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
June, July, I thought the same thing when you said it made me think of female genital mutilation.
Mutilation, yeah. 1000%.
I thought the same
And
thing.
then it's just like, okay, so what if it grows back? Which is the question. And we'll do it again. And I'm like, this lady's nuts. This
Mm-hmm.
lady's nuts. So you're kidnapping kids to butcher them so they can look more like. Again, I don't get it. I don't think there's a moral dilemma here. I think there's just a dilemma. Like
Okay.
it's wrong. It's wrong. There's no black and white about it. I don't see two sides about it, especially if your efforts are futile.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I also think that, I'm processing 2 weeks of being backed up. I also think that my frustration in the way Octavia Butler writes, and it's probably because she did such a good job, is that these humans we're 30 years past Lilith letting them out, and they are still doing the dumbest thing ever. And like she just said, like there's no brain cells. And if this is to represent what humanity would do in a collapse, that's terrifying. Because you've got Tate who's like, yeah, well, you mean they just want kids and life's a drag. And like I part of me is struggling to imagine this is who we would be in this instance. And I also know it is quite true because they've had 30 years since leaving the ship and going out on their own. So yes, they build they build like a mimicry of what we had before,
Yeah.
but it's still not good enough. And they are so like they can't progress past building homes and building guns again. Like we can't get fucking nuclear fusion, bitch. We can't like end poverty. Like we're worried about guns. And that's what's so frustrating is that they're just repeating the same cycle and they're just layering it with hate. Because to her point, they're stealing these kids. They don't want these kids to be like who they are. They want them to be what they like would desire for humans, but they're going to hate them. They're not going to like them. They're going to treat them as people treat children right now. If not accessories, then I like the idea of a child. I don't actually want what a child comes with. And that to me is so frustrating.
Yeah, but I'm also wondering, and this is what Sir Max was saying in the chat, that, it's the nostalgia of it all, right? Hoping for the past. But I'm also interested because there's a place where I think Tate says to tells Aiken, you're their hope. Like, you're their hope to procreate, but not just procreate, but to continue living on, right? I think that one of the reasons why the violence is not as extreme in this text against humans is because they cannot procreate. Like if you kill all these men off, you know what I'm saying? All y'all can do is just intertwine with each other, have relations, but there is no other there's no other way to advance humanity unless you partner with the Oankali, and they're hoping the Uloi, and they're hoping that Aiken, because he looks so human, minus the tongue, can help them do it in some way. Now we don't know what their thoughts are fully, but we do know that they do want to continue to advance humanity, and the Oankali have taken that away.
I have a question, but can they play horizontal hockey with the lights off? Because they said that they can't touch each other. It's a revulsion, so they can't. I feel like if the Oankali let them have that, maybe things will be less violent. But I don't think, because everybody's repulsed touching each other.
Because remember, there's this place, I think there are two parts where the men want a woman. They want a woman from the village.
Right.
And what's implied is that they're going to be able to sleep with this woman. I don't know if it wears off, their repulsion wears off, or they're just going to do it brutally just to do the act. But they do want the woman.
They say that after a while, it wears off so that you can't go back to touching it, but if you get back with them, then it stays there. So
Okay.
It
Okay,
does
I gotta go back
off.
and read that one then because I
Right.
missed
So,
that.
right, it does wear off. The thing, I know we don't want to talk about the D word, but the thing that gets me about this, about the earth ending, them saying the earth ending, was you specifically told these people you saved them. You saved the human race. You came in, you did all of this stuff to now intentionally end the world. So like, yeah, so yeah, the earth was badly damaged. You might not have been able to live very long within the environment or whatever else, but you probably would have continued to exist when they found you.
Okay.
So you probably could continue to exist. But because they now come in and did this intervention, they are specifically using the planet to grow a ship that's going to destroy the planet. And so you will be gone. And we have created a way that your that your human species will end. You will not be human anymore. You'll be something else. And I just thought that was very interesting. And when Akeem then said, there are three, I guess, sectors of the Olin Kali. There's the one sector that's down on the earth, there's one that's on a ship, and then there's like one that's going to remain the same. Like that one will never be intermingled with others. And he said, I think that there should be humans like the ones who don't get changed. He's not thinking that, like he's starting to, he's starting to realize that. So that whole, like, it doesn't matter what the Olankali just were like, they say they don't lie, but that's just you're lying. You're like telling half truths about what it is. Yes, I saved you. I came in and this is the only way to make it better. And like, again, that whole thing of like, I'm making things better, but who asked you to?
Mm-hmm.
What do we get from this? So that's why I keep thinking about, I'm sorry, I keep thinking about the big
No,
D. Keep thinking about the big
let
D. I'm sorry, I
that
got it on the brain. I can't help it. Because it's like you didn't give me a choice. You decided you're going to do this. You think this is going to be better, and you're wrong. It's
let
like a
that
whole
man
alien
rest.
planet of them.
Lord.
No.
I misspoke earlier. I forgot about this image that's on the Huntington website about the Owen Collie. So I want to turn this around. But before I do that, after I show y'all this image, I want to know how y'all felt reading this book, knowing that a nuclear war has happened, and the fact that we were potentially maybe inching towards thinking about inciting a nuclear war just a few days ago. Okay, I'm gonna just turn this around real quick.
I don't like this. Everything scares me. And I'm not an easily scared type bitch. You know what I mean? Spooky. I don't like
It
this.
is kind of yeah.
I think that what I actually like about this one is that she doesn't tell us what happened. She just says we ended. She doesn't go into she doesn't give us the background of the collapse. She just says it happens, and the people talk about pre-war. And it's a lot of times they're talking about, so many times in these two books they talk about, I can't believe we never thought, we ended the, like, disbelief, right? Complete and utter shock. But then they turn around and don't want to hear what the Owen Collie or the aliens say about themselves. It's giving Caucasian. Now, hear me out. Follow me, camera. Cognitive dissonance. White people, they are terrible, right? And they're like, they're not good. And they also think that they are the best things to ever happen. Like, oh, we created civilization, but they was shitting up in Versailles in the corners. So when you tell them you're actually not a great person, they're like, I can't believe it. Disbelief, right? But inherently, they also, or not inherently, internally, they also know that if left to their own devices, they can get downright dirty. They think it's okay to make fun of, like, hands up, don't shoot. Cognitive dissonance, right? So if we apply that to these people of like, I can't believe this happened, and yet you cannot tell me about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Who that sound like?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's like, this is the other thing. This is another thing that I thought about, was that they made a point about like the men. So I think that Tate followed Gabe, right? I think that Tate's followed the man, because that's like, it's like all of the violence, and I gotta be on top, and I gotta control, or whatever else, is really coming from the men. And
Sure.
so it's coming from the men. Like, even the whole thing of like, I'm going to raid other places, and I'm going to go to different towns and trade, and so I can get myself a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the way you go down in terms of like your morality, your ethics, or whatever else. Unfortunately, it seems like that is very patriarchal in terms of how that exists. And even with the Olin Collie, they're like, okay, so the men are here. The male Olin Collie, he's important, but he is not as important as the female.
Mm-hmm.
They make a point about that. So I think that one of the things that she keeps doing is like, this patriarchal kind of like way of thinking always puts us in a really bad space.
Yeah, and which is why they say in the text that they've learned that they cannot control the males, right? They cannot anticipate them. They can't control them, so they don't allow them to be born.
Right.
Generally. So that's when everyone's like, how'd you get a boy? How'd you get a boy? Because men are unpredictable. But then I think about is it Family by J. California Cooper? There's a narrative, a neo-slave narrative, I think it's Family, where she's talking about not allow, they have the ability. Oh, and we can think about Butler, right? In Kendrick, Anyanwu would not father white male children, right? So she saw them as dangerous, but even in Family, they saw the male species as dangerous on the plantation. And now we're seeing the Oankali say, yeah, we have a lot of information, and the information we have leads us to believe that we should not create more the male species at all. Yes, I want to get you in this conversation. Hey.
Hey. Yes, to all of what everybody said, I thought that it was very interesting that the Owen Collie were having problems with making men. Um, One of my biggest questions with reading through this text
Mhm.
is that, like, Butler keeps saying that humans are intelligent. But one of the main things that all of her, or most of her human characters have, is that they're stupid. And they're ignorant and they're violent and they're really, really stuck in their ways. So it's I'm like, does she think that we're dumb? Like,
Well, book smart ain't the same as street smart. You know?
yeah, because that was Dana's struggle. But yeah, this book is just, it's interesting. It's making me sad because I just feel bad for Akeem. But I do think that it's very interesting that he has technically five parents,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that he's most interested in is the one that is not around him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because of that is leading to his um like his more curiosity to the humans. And I even felt like when I was reading like the parts of when they first abducted him and they were like running in the forest and being stupid and then they started that fire, I felt like when I was reading Akeem's perspective, he kind of felt bad for them, even though they kidnapped him and they're being like rough with him and violent towards him. Akeem is so advanced that he just feels bad for them. He's like, oh my God, like the humans are so stupid, they're just violent. And I think that it's, I don't know what's gonna happen in the story, but I think that at some point I'm gonna get mad at Akeem because he's gonna sympathize with the humans, even though they kidnapped him and did all of this stuff.
Well,
And another thing that I have to say is I feel like the aliens, or like the Ulai and the Owen Kali or whatever, to me, they read more, they don't read like animals, but they read like emotionless beings, but not in a bad way. Just like when Akeem was like, oh, I drank the wine and I liked it, but my body didn't like it, so I'm just not gonna drink no more. Like, they're just very like, this is not good for me, so I'm not gonna do it. This is not good for me, so I'm not gonna do it. Like, they're so like simple, they're advanced.
yeah, so the point I wanted to respond to what you said was him like being more curious about the humans and saying, oh, they want to destroy themselves, and him being more sympathetic. One thing we got to remember is this the first time we're seeing a hybrid body in this text, right? Or in this series. Of course, Lilith can be considered a hybrid body of sorts because she has been advanced due to their technology. So she is teetering more on the not subhuman, post-human than human. But now we have a mixture, a child who is a mixed breed, a mongrel, as someone referred to him as, who will not destroy the human side of him, right? But also realizes that the Oankali side is also similarly as strong. So now we're dealing with instinct versus biology here, right? And so I think that is why we're kind of picking up on this middle ground with Aiken, because he is both and. He cannot choose. He does aesthetically look human, so he is accepted more by the humans, right? But he has not gone through metamorphosis yet, so we're not sure what type of harm he may get. And as you said about them drinking the alcohol, everybody know alcohol poison. Everybody know. Every human know it, right? But you literally say, pick your poison. Which one do you want? You know it, but you like the effects of it. When I think about the people who were drinking and it had to kidnap him, like they're desperate. They're trying to alleviate the pain that they may feel as a result of not. First of all, as a result of not being able to be men, right? Those traditional men and protect the women and do all this other stuff, but also feel like I gotta steal this baby in order to get a woman to feel like a man. It's sad. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
right. I'm just saying that now we're looking at a character who's walking a very real middle ground and who would naturally not be in the presence of resistor humans, but now is because he's been kidnapped. And we'll begin to see why the Owen Collie did not allow them to mix like that.
I also like how Butler positions one Tate as a foil to Lilith, and how she actually uses Akeen's POV to kind of highlight the internal turmoil that they both go through, as you know, because it is hard. We can talk for the smarter people on that planet. It's hard recognizing that you have to survive and adapt this way and lose some of your humanity, but you know, in a practical sense, what you need to do. And Lilith is all about, I need to do what I need to do to survive. And because of that, she constantly lives in this dichotomy. Like, am I human? Am I not? Am I betraying people? Am I not? Do I want to survive? Or should I feel guilty for wanting to survive? Should I feel guilty for that humanness in myself? Or should I be completely human and be a resistor or die? Because I'm sure she knows a little bit more than everybody else and knows that this is a means to an end. And she's given these abilities and she's given these senses, and I think she likes the parts that are enhanced in her, but also she's just like, I'm struggling with why I like it. I shouldn't like it. So this constant turmoil that she kind of highlights and foils in Lilith kind of parallels the same in Tate. And then Akeen later in the section that we leave off at says, I understand now. And then he's going to, I guess, through his journey, is going to further unfurl to everybody like what this actually looks like. And then we also deal with inner turmoil as completely, human beings trying to figure out that constant fine line with dancing with, how to progress and how to be more about it and how to do this and how to do that. So I think it's very interesting what the constructs will have to go through. And even the difference between Akeen and the twins, because the twins don't fully get it yet, but will they start to? Because they have some humanoid features, but if maybe not, because they look more alien. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Valerie, thanks for all the love you're giving me with the gifts on here. Thank you so much. I wanted to acknowledge you. Can y'all please keep typing, liking the live so TikTok can give me some lunch money? Second of all, yes, to Lilith and the Aiken parallel. Because Lilith is torn of sorts, right? We ain't go too hard on her. Erica Ebony. I keep forgetting. I think it was Erica. Last week said not too much on Lilith. We ain't going too much on Lilith, right? But she is torn. But now we're also seeing Aiken being torn because Lilith should have sided with the humans, right? But now we're starting to wonder or notice Aiken should be siding with the Owen Collie. We haven't seen him side yet, but if we can read the tea leaves, or we can read the room, we're starting to pick up on clues that he seems to be siding with the humans a little bit, right? We haven't gotten to a point where we see him doing anything. So we're seeing this parallel happen where we have Lilith, who's expected to side with the humans, kind of go the Owen Collie way, and we have Akeen, who we know is Owen Collie and human. We want him to. He's supposed to, not we want. He is supposed to be siding with the Owen Collie. Jojo in July says he feels abandoned. Yes. And that matters. And that's kind of one of my questions. And I want to get into this question because your comment just kind of pushed us in that direction. It's a second question, and it's thinking about imprinting and influence. And it says Butler notes that the Oankali infants form deep connections through prolonged biochemical bonding. In contrast, Aiken's early experiences with human captors deeply affect his understanding of humanity. What does this say about memory, early influence, and the ethics of nurture? And how do these dynamics challenge Western ideas of autonomy, and free will? So ultimately, I'm curious and I'm interested in this nature versus nurture discussion, especially given the fact that Aiken is taken so early in his formative years where he's still learning, but now he is bonding very quickly to the humans because he's spending a lot of time with them.
What I find fascinating is that to say he's an alien and they're more advanced, he still falls prey to this exact argument. You would think that he would be far enough removed that if he can remember being in his mother's womb and everything that anyone's ever told him, why is he still struggling with his understanding of humanity as he is a toddler being carried by the feet by some rude men? Why is he still like coming to Tate? And I don't know if it's the contradiction, that whole like, oh, it's sexy to the Oankali and the Ului and like the aliens. I don't know if it's that, but it is interesting that he is supposedly the best of both worlds, and yet he is still, or maybe it's a testament to humanity and why we have so many alien movies about people coming to get us because of what makes us sexy, which is that, you know, we're confusing. We're not premeditated. Evolution has given us like 1,000 ways to grow, even though we tend to fall back on our bad habits. But compared to a structured race like the Oankali and the Louis, which is, it is what it is. You can see everything, you know everything, and this is the truth. That's not how humanity works. Like, we can disbelieve what's in front of us. And so for someone like an Akin, or whatever his name is, it is a testament to what makes us great and why that contradiction is so necessary for him to grow up to what he will eventually become as this construct human male, and the role he plays in like pushing humanity and the aliens forward. Because he should not, like, if we think about everything we know, he should not be struggling with nature versus nurture. It should just be like, I know this because our people have known this and this is what it is. But he ends up vacillating between the two.
But and I'm interested. Someone said this earlier, like it seems that the Oankali the Oankali have no feelings? Someone said. It's this. Okay, yes, it's that feeling. It's that difference between I intellectually know this thing, but I feel something else, right? So which one are you going to go towards? Like, I know what I've been taught about the humans. I've never spent time with the resistors though. And now I'm picking up on their humanity, and he picks up on Tate's cancer, right, that she still had in her body. All of these things. So I think it's that kind of difference between book knowledge or book learning and experiential learning, right?
I also think how they develop though is both and, right? Because Akin is very, very, very adamant that he has to be there for his sibling's birth so that the sibling can know him. And how they know people is by, you know, touching with them, being with them, all of that through their formative years. My thing is that the Oankali have always only been around the Oankali. So that's why they act the way they act. But because now we have constructed people and we have all of these different, I'll just call them all constructed. We have all these different constructed people, and you have like 5 different parents, but some are Oankali, some are human, some are Oloi. How you're created, you'll have a very different input than someone who is just raised or just being touched, or you just knew the Owen Collie. So I think that's their nature though.
I also think that and Tachi, I agree with you 1,000%. I also think that the Owen Collie may know from a cellular standpoint about humans, but that's it. Because when it comes down, like it's beyond them of why men and women would want to like it's like this is better for you. Like you should want what we're talking about because it's better. Like they don't seem to grasp the importance of humanity at all, or they're dismissing it. And it keeps coming back up because, like, every time, because a Ken is constantly challenging it because he's looking at what he's learned or what he knows, and it's different. Like he's like, okay, Tate, that you have this disease, that we can cure. Why would you want to go back to that? Like, why wouldn't you want to let us cure that? Why would you want to do that? And it's like it is beyond him why she wouldn't want to do it. But if you knew humans, you would know. You would understand why not.
I don't know. I think
If you knew humans, you would understand why she would not want that choice.
well, so when you said this, I'm thinking about multiple things. Thank you all for the correction in the chat. Tate has Huntington's. But also, Tina, when you're speaking, I'm thinking about how the Owen Collie are trying to play God, right?
Yeah.
And they want God in Judeo-Christianity. God knows everything. He knows what's right for you. But the human nature is, no, we want to do what we know what's right for us, right? So it's this thing of, he is all knowing. He knows the beginning from the end from the beginning, as the Bible teaches, all of this stuff. So it's like this God complex. The Owen Collie are saying, we know what's best for you. You need to go this way. But humans are learning through the experience, right? The unfolding experience, the in the moment experience. And while if you're whatever you believe, I'm a Christian, so if you believe that God knows best, there's still moments where I'm kind of like, nah, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I missed that. I missed him on that one. So I think it sometimes experience and life is stronger than knowing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I do think life is stronger than knowing. I mean, it's one of those things where it is, and I think that's why he's having such a hard time of trying to figure out where he wants to fit, because he's challenged with all this logic and everything he knows, and also he's challenged with viewing. I'm going to say this, but it might not be popular. He's challenged with basically enslaved humans and how they act, which is the people that are in low, and these people who are resistors. Like they're free, they can do whatever else. There are consequences to this freedom. And he is having a hard time when he says, well, with Lilith and the other humans that he's around have accepted it, have like acquiesced to what this is. And he mentions the fact that his mother would get so angry that she would have to go away for a while.
Yeah.
Like not be around them, just get away. And he like never understood why.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because in a lot of ways, the humans that are in low or that are being kept, the Owen Collie's pets, if you will, they're the animals. They're the people who the Owen Collie are building a society upon. They are the laborers of sorts, right? And while they do join in the labor in a way, they do need the human body. So these are commodities in a way to trade with and to trade. So they've basically weaponized humanity in a way. That's a way that we have not seen fully unfold yet, but we have some ideas about what's been going on through the years of selective breeding, because that is exactly what they're doing to advance their plight. Yeah, I had something else I wanted to say and I just lost it.
I have a question for the chat.
All right.
What would y'all do?
Chat, what would y'all do?
Would y'all go with the Owen Collie? You feel me? They a little ugly, but they could fix any ailment that you have.
I mean, you get over ugly. People get over ugly people really
all the
quickly.
time.
I'm saying. I'm like, shit, y'all need to figure out how to get cute. Y'all
Ugly
want some
ain't never
emojis?
stopped no motion for real.
Because like I read this book and I'm just like, I understand you don't want to mate with aliens. I get that. And you want to preserve your image. You're nostalgic. All of these things I understand, but at the same time, if the earth is dying and y'all can't procreate, what y'all gonna do?
Like I'm saying, based on my dating history, I could definitely get over an ugly man. But I think we're looking at the other, right? When it is called, what is it called? The conflict zone, the contact zone. And I think I wrote about this with the Dawn excerpt from my dissertation. When you enter the contact zone, these two beings, the Oankali and the humans, come together into the contact zone. At first, it's going to be some type of friction because you're encountering the other. Everyone has their own individual interests in mind, their own nature, all the things. But eventually, you spend enough time, you're kind of like, well, they ain't that bad, right? They treat you good. They saying the right things. They're doing all these things, and you realize I can either accept and live like we see Elena did in Survivor, or I can resist and potentially not be here no more. So a lot of people, I think in the chat, people are kind of saying I would resist at first and I'll go, and other people are like, I'm just gonna go ahead and go.
Because listen, we have all done charity work, ladies, gadies, and thadies, when it comes to dating. We have run a nonprofit or two. Do you know what I mean?
We've taken one for the team.
We have taken one for the team. We are not philanthropic anymore, the goal is. But if we consider ourselves the charity work that they're doing, it makes sense. Because, I mean, sure, the broke man may have like a third leg, but he doesn't have anything else to offer, where these people offer pleasure and healing and a house. They're not homosexuals. So
Exactly. See, that's
I'm sorry,
my
leave
thing.
me in the plant.
With the
I'm on the ship in the plant. Screw that.
Yes.
Let
I'm
me
with
figure
him
it out.
too.
Let it
Straight
get
on
all
ship.
evolved and then I come back. We'll see. I'm saying right now, leave me on the plant.
Still asleep.
Oh,
goodness.
She said she doesn't even want to
Dreaming about somebody. Please, thank you.
Well, I mean, that you did have a point there. Like, what if humans are the Owen College charity work? Yes, they find your bodies.
They are.
They are.
We're very silly in this book. We're very silly. They don't have to. They want to, real bad, but they don't have
and they're nice enough, and they have a house. Again, if you dealt with a third leg ugly man, at least they have some personality that we can get over. Do you know what I mean? And maybe they feed us what we want to eat, and we don't have to pay for our own meals. Exactly.
And you would basically be a vegan.
See.
They hella healthy out there. You feel me? Like, I would go with them. I would be over there.
Cece says the only thing that was beneficial to the Owen Collie was our cancer. Valerie says, are the Owen Collie the white savior of the series?
I think that the Owen Collie low-key wanted the humans because they want to look better. I know that sounds crazy, but
Absolutely.
I think that they want to crossbreed with us because they were kind of humanoid-ish, and we're humans.
They want to advance the race.
Yeah, they want to advance the race. So, and they can't do that if they got tentacles for eyes and mouths and stuff. So, they did want us for our cancer, but then they also was like, hey, this species is close enough to us. Maybe we can mate with them and look a little better so that we can continue with our mission and it'll be a little easier.
Yeah, Sam says the forced sterilization is the reason I can't get with the Owen Collie 100%.
But as someone who is childless and plans on being childless, have you met children?
Melanie.
Sorry. You know what? That's not fair. They're great little disgusting vectors. And if the world collapsed, why would I want to bring them into that?
Well,
Ask ourselves.
well, because I think ultimately when I think about that, right, and I did think about that, like if they're in such dire conditions, if they're in these shanty houses, why would they want to procreate so bad? And I think it's just the biological nature of humans.
I'm going to say it's possession.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's the accessories. Kind of like what I mentioned earlier about how like people, like when the people were like, oh, we can just cut their tentacles off. These are still children at the end of the day. And I know this is a revolutionary statement, but children are the most oppressed class anywhere in the world. They are the most marginalized. They don't have a voice. And these people would likely do the same exact thing. If we talk about mimicry, they're going to do the same exact thing they did before the collapse as they did again with the collapse. They're not going to be great parents. They're not going to be mindful of what these people are, which are like little people who are developing and seeing the world for the first time. They're going to be selfish. They're going to impart their beliefs on these kids and expect it to go. They're just not going to be great. So it's really it's that legacy talk.
Okay.
You know how some people are like, oh, my legacy is my child. No, your legacy is like a thing you do. Your child is your child. So I think that Theo and Kali did right by not giving, it is taking power away, but it's not giving humanity the one thing that they can continue to fuck up. And we have consistently, before we had guns, before we had like biological weapons, we did really good at ruining people by ruining children.
I also think that when you think about it, the whole legacy, like it's my seed and I can carry on. Like the men had an issue and still had an issue with feeling like women with the oncology. They kept talking about the fact that they felt like they got that taken away from them. And one of the ways that you show your proudness as a man is that by having a lot of children, more so than women. Like it's a big thing if you can produce sons and you can produce children. So I think that part of that is like that's just another way that they lowered, I guess, the standard or the status of men in this process was by not allowing them to be able to do that. Because they also said that the women were more easily persuaded to join them than the men were.
Going back to that, I'm just going to reread the quote from earlier because Tina, what you just said is exactly what Butler was saying in the interview in the opening quote that I read today. And she's talking about changing bodies and mating with the Uloi, men and women mating with Uloi. And Butler says men don't like it because they feel like they're being made into women. And that's not really what's happening. That's the way they see it because the men aren't at the top of the hierarchy anymore, biologically or sexually. But the Uloi are not necessarily taking away any male functions. Genetically, the men are still male. But in the Oankali system, male does not carry the connotations of power and authority that it does in human systems.
I want to start off by saying I agree 1000% with everything that Melanie and Tina had said about what we do to children. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But also, I do want to bring to light that I agree with the only lowly person screaming in the chat, Sam, saying, hey, but the Oankali are they still are taking away your rights to reproduce or making you reproduce without your will as well, without your consent as well. So they are pulling sperms and eggs from you if you're living in the low, and they'll breed you whenever they think that you're ready because they need to populate their own beings. So for somebody who may not want children, they just want to exist among the Oankali, you don't really have that right either. So I do want to bring that and submit that to the chat. That either way, you're not really doing what you want to do, and it's against your, you don't have consent or say so in anything pretty much. But also, yes, we ruin children, and I really think that people need to have hard discussions before having kids because wow.
Yeah. As she said, Sam was in the chat saying the only reason she cannot fully get behind the Oankali is that they strip them of their reproductive rights without any consent. In the same way that the Tuskegee experiment did historically, in the same way that a lot of the legislation that's rolling out today is attempting to do, there are a lot of women. So I'm very interested in those parallels now that we're talking about it, right? The parallels of restricting women's from being able to procreate and reproduce in the ways that they choose. What is the difference between the government's decision these days?
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the parallels with all of the women's rights and women's legislation, the legislation being rolled out pertaining to women, more specifically pertaining to their bodily autonomy and their reproductive choices. And I'm saying, like, do we see parallels in the ways in which the Oankali are stripping the women and the men? Well, we're not going to discuss the men, but the women in this series of their reproductive rights and their bodily autonomy. Is it similar to the ways in which the government is attempting to police women's bodies and strip them of their reproductive decisions and rights today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The only the only difference is that they're way more calculated about it, in terms of when they want to do it and how they want to do it, and they're rearranging genes and all of that. Whereas today, someone could, something horrible could happen to me, or I can't continue with a pregnancy because something is wrong, or like there's all these different factors why you may have to not continue with the pregnancy, and then you just can't, right? But here, there with the Oankali, it's a very they're basically creating life within you without your consent in a very perfect environment, basically. So, but you just wake up and then you're pregnant. And then and all I can think of is like, what if I'm 70? I don't want to do this anymore. Release me. But like, it's just like, yeah, well, we made you live longer. We extended your life, by fiddling with your DNA, probably extending your telomeres. So you're still viable for reproduction. So we're going to do this. And you just wake up pregnant again, 70. Like,
Yeah.
I have back pain. Please release me. And so my whole thing about being a breeding farm, like that's basically what the Oankali are doing. It's just different, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think that they would have those pains anymore because remember the
Well,
Oankali
true.
them.
True.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very perfect environment. That I will say. They make sure you're very comfortable, but you're still 90 and like, why? Why, girl?
Well, you're 90 in human years, not in Oankali, the Oankali imagination when they've given
Lilith is tired in present time. She's tired.
Interesting. I don't think she's physically tired. I think
No, it's not physical. It's the mental toll of everything. And the fact that you see all these little litters of kids running around, like it's not the way you wanted to do things. And you have to reconcile that. And I'm sure she gets tired stalking off into the wilderness wherever she goes to fight her demons and have this internal struggle. The emotional toll is tiring.
Lactose intolerance says, were our human minds meant to live that long? Well, biblically, people are living to 800. So until something happened and God said, y'all ain't getting more than 150, and we ain't making it to that. So I don't know. But biblically, allegedly, they were living to 800. Melanie, you good?
Yeah, I was gonna say two thoughts. One, if y'all remember, I think it was Gerard Butler's movie, the actor, Children of Men. It's a movie about a world where there are no more children, except for this one, and he has to transport this kid from someplace in London, I guess, or wherever he is from, because he's not American, to somewhere else in Europe. And what happens when people do not have children? I know what I said about children being oppressed. That is true. And why in the movie and in this book, in some way, they represent the last of our humanity. And then two, based on the conversation we were just having around immortality, you are living in long periodically time. So though you may not be physically tired, mentally, you like the brain. These people don't even have the construct mind that Lilith has where they can remember everything, but they do live long longer than they should or would, and they know that. And I think that that plays a role in the futility of their living and why we see, like, I would say degeneracy. And it raises the point of, like, I don't think humans should live that long. The beauty and what makes us human is that we get such a moment, like a brief moment compared to space and to the rest of um, like the world, that we are forced to live like we're dying, like that cheesy Coldplay lyric or whatever. But when aliens come in and they tweak some things and they elongate our lives or our telomeres, now we're having to face the uncomfortable truth about what makes us human. And as we see, a lot of them aren't wanting to do that. A lot of them can't get past guns and painting houses blue or white. And that to me is why I partially side with the Owen Collie of, like, yeah, no, I don't think you should have children. I don't think men should be as prominent as they are, because patriarchy says they'll be evil. They'll raid and they'll great people and all that jazz. And two, I don't think that while you need children, you should have children. I think you should just live life, and you can't always come back to us. And if you don't want to, well, tough titties, said the kitty. So those are that's what struck me about this entire piece.
Well, I think
But
some
the Owen
people.
Collie,
I would say,
Go ahead.
I have to say though, in the defense of Lilith and even the first humans that she woke up, like, she has a right to be tired because she actually remembers the world pre-war. She remembers being on the ship and having to go through all of that. That was basically her living another life. And now she has to try to rebuild her life again on Earth. Like, Lilith, I understand why Lilith got to go in the forest every once in a while and yell. She's lived so many lives over, and she has to keep going.
so
So I do agree with. I think it was some people in the chat saying, like, I don't want to live that long. Yeah, like, I think that it's also freaking the humans out that the Owen Collie altered them to not age, and then they can't have kids. They don't have nothing. They don't have anything to live for.
I, well, I think that what's interesting to me is that at the beginning, in the first book, they basically for about 50 years did psychological and physical torture on Lilith. They had her in isolation for weeks by herself. She's talking to herself, like digging her, trying to kill herself, all kinds of stuff. They then bring her out, then they start like doing stuff, and then they send her to this guy, Paul, who literally tries to rape her. And she's trying to find her footing, like she's trying to realize what's going on. She's telling them about things that they should do, and they're not. And so by the time she got to living with them, she was just happy to be at peace, or like just to I guess in her mind to feel somewhat normal. And then they put her in this horrible position, and they knew it was going to be horrible. They knew it was going to be bad, but it benefited them. And they put in this horrible position to wake all these people with and gave and put her in a position where they saw her as someone who had all of this control, or she had more than they had, and this was a conflict, and they knew it was a conflict. Then it was like it's better for her to be injured than one of them. I mean, that's how I came off with that. And then they basically drugged everybody and raped them. There was no like, okay, this is who we are. We really want you guys to come. If you guys want to do this, let's do this or whatever. They drugged them and then raped them. There was no, and she knew, and she told them like they're gonna do this. They're gonna come. They're gonna come take you. They're gonna do these things to you. And then when she was gone on her little adventure, they like took all the people and then made her the boogeyman. They did. They made her the boogeyman. Like, so like now they've got all these great horrible stories about who she is, what she's about, everything else. So she has been victimized over and over and over again. Not only by by the Olin Collie over and over and over again. Even the psychological torture of giving her a child, giving that small child and then taking the child away from her, and then giving the Olulu guy, I forgot what his name is, like giving him that, and as a child, and making her go through his transition with her. There's just a lot of like really brutal stuff that happened to her, and then from the Olin College. So like they didn't give anybody, like I keep saying this over again. They keep saying we saved you, and I'm like, who asked you?
You
That's my
also
situation.
forgot the point. The point. Don't forget that when people asked Nakaj,
Yes.
okay, why did you put Lilith in that position? She said, yeah, we found out that that was bad, so we stopped doing it. Like,
Yeah, they was like, yeah, you know
what?
what? We should
Yeah,
have listened to
So
you.
we decided not to do it anymore. Yep.
Yeah, we shouldn't have did that. We decided that wasn't right. We're not gonna we're gonna show you that this really is a ship. Just
We would have had to fight. That was funny.
well, that's
Nakaj
what
is
I'm
a funny
saying. Leave
girl,
me in
a
the
funny
plan.
person.
Leave me in the plan on the ship.
I wanna yes to what you're saying. But I wanna go back to this idea of longevity of life. And I know a lot of people are saying like, or in the chat that, we don't want to live that long, but I want to challenge that because long is only according to what we know. And if people were historically, if you believe in the Bible, living 800 years, 90 years is still young. If the father of the faith, Abraham, not father of the faith, Abraham said, yeah, had a kid at 100. He's old, but and his body not working for real, but he still lives to be longer. So I think that old, and it is relative. We know old because we've seen people decline very early in life. But what if, and this is just me thinking, what is Lilith 57 in this narrative in her 50s? What if that's not old compared to what humans could live if they eat right, if they do things differently, and if the elements weren't the elements, right? If we weren't living in the world with all the pollution and all the things that causes us to decline very rapidly. I think that if you're in a different context, or in a different situation, you're going to think differently about your body and your ability. That's just like people who want to lose weight and you're around a lot of fit people. You may start to think it's possible for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm only saying that because I think about the limitations that we put on ourselves based on how we think. And I think that in our minds, no, you should not want to be forced to live longer than you want to. But also think about it, y'all. God sets the aspiration. None of us know when we're going to expire, right? So someone can rightfully be supposed to be living, 150 years, God willing. Yeah.
Whilst
Huh?
whilst I agree with you on the like, if our conditions were better or if we didn't do bad stuff and took better care of ourselves, it wouldn't be that bad. I'm
You muffled a little
arguing.
bit, Ash.
Oh, my bad.
Yep.
Can you hear me better?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would still argue in the defense. It's not that Lilith is old, it's the fact that she has lived three hard lives.
Okay.
Like, so it's not that 57 is old. It's the fact that Lilith done already lived through the nuclear war,
Mm-hmm.
watched her whole family die.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was on this ship trying to figure it out, and
Mm-hmm.
then Joseph died.
Mm-hmm.
Now she got this. Now she's on Earth trying to figure it out again, and her man Tino, he just got beat up, and her son is gone. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like it's not even the length of time, it's the amount of shit that she's gone stuff sorry that she's gone through,
But
that
Lilith
I'm
is
just like, damn.
she's not tired because she couldn't be unalived. She can't, right? She would heal faster, but she's not immortal. And she kind of says that in the text. So if she wanted to be up out of here, she could be up out of here. But something's keeping her living. Something, and I think that's Butler's commentary on Black women who go on living in spite of, right? But yeah, She can be up out here if she wanted to, but the conditions with the Owankali do favor her, and I don't want us to forget that they do favor her. She has agreed in a lot of ways to be the woman, the myth, the legend, the hated one, the mother of sorts, the matriarch of human society. And so I think that she chose her partnership because she didn't have to choose it. And I do want to think about choice here, right? Because a lot of times we do say, oh, this person don't have a choice, this person don't have a choice, or she does have a choice. She did have a choice. Just like Anyanwu had a choice, and y'all bet not. If y'all don't give Lilith the 10th degree, do not give Anyanwu that for partner
But
with
see, that
Dora.
was kind of my
You
point.
can't do that.
Yes,
It's
I
funny that
can.
it's funny that you brought up Anyamu, because even in Wild Seed, Anyamu said, "I'm tired of having to rebuild my life. I'm 500 years old. I done had 10
Mm-hmm.
husbands. They all died. I done had so many kids. They died. I have
Mm-hmm.
grandkids I don't even know because I'm
Mm-hmm.
old. I'm tired of
But
this
what did she
ish."
do at the end of the narrative? She decided to partner with Doro, and we see her in Mind of My Mind. Because that choice, the choice to go on living, was more favorable than to dying because she had something to look forward to. She had the vision to look forward to. Flawed vision. I'm not defending it. But I'm saying if we're not giving, if we took Anyanwu down.
You
Y'all
know,
want to step
She
up, baby.
deserved it,
I
and
argue
she
that
deserved it.
Anyamu died when she stopped being a dolphin. I don't care what she did in Mind of My Mind. That's when Anyanwu died, okay?
Let me. All I'm saying is y'all got to keep the same energy for Anyanwu that y'all. I want y'all to keep it for Lilith. Because
But
Lilith,
then I have a question. What is Lilith's vision?
she
Because
believes in the Owen Collie vision, the construct children, the continuation of the race.
I have to hear that from her.
Get out
Thank
of
you. I
here!
need to
Right.
hear that from her, babes.
I have to hear it from
Get
her.
out of here! She keeps
These
having
are
children for them.
I have to hear that from her because I feel like there's some people, right, who are very, very tired and want to be up out of here, but they can't perform the act, right? They're too coward, they're too chicken in a sense, quote unquote. So I feel like if I can't unalive myself, will it like because the innate thing in me is to survive and keep myself alive. Well, I'm going to do whatever I can to survive and keep myself alive. That doesn't necessarily mean I believe in the vision, because in the first book, she was just like, okay, when we all get down to earth, we're going to run away. Where did that go?
Don't ask me, cause
Where
she's
did that go?
complaining like she didn't have what
I
19
don't really
children.
I think that she knows what's happening and all of this is a farce and everything is very bleak right
Lilith
now.
believes she's had 19 kids, I believe.
I need to hear it from her.
Cut it out. Cut it out. Cut it out. Y'all cut it out. Lilith believes. Now, you don't hear a lot of from her mouth in this book yet. And we will see, we'll see if we hear from her in the second half of the book. However, she has born these people children. She has stopped teaching them to learn and run. She has partnered with the vision. Yes, she's tired. There are moments where she's frustrated, but has still partnered. She is still agreeing. Every time she pop out one of them construct babies, there's agreement. Because she don't have to keep doing it.
I think that Lilith is just stuck between a rock and a hard
Cut
place.
it out.
Her two choices was, do you want ish on the stick or do you want ish on your
Cut
hand?
it
And
out.
she picked ish on the stick.
Y'all
She
gotta
literally
stop.
is no, she's literally complaining when she's like, I do it for my children. And that's why you got to be careful when you have kids for people. She's staying here for her kids. She's given up. I'm in agreement. I need to hear from her mouth that she actually believes in the vision, in the mission,
Because
or if it's just
That's partly why
if you didn't
Nakanj
believe in the
impregnated
vision,
her.
if you didn't believe in the vision, why keep having children for the vision?
because you don't have a choice. Bookie
There's
Butt, what do you
always a
mean?
choice. There's a
No,
choice.
there's no choice with this.
No, no, no,
No.
no, no. Lilith is not the only woman. She 19.
I'm
Nakanj
saying Lilith
impregnated
doesn't
her without her consent,
consent.
though, so she didn't have a choice.
One time y'all saw her do it without her consent.
Yeah, but and then after
And we
she
don't
had
see
that
that
baby,
shit.
she was turned out.
cut it out, y'all. This is still
They
choice
said
and
it's like a
We can't
draw.
see what happened
They
all the
said
other
it's like a
times.
draw.
Butler
Oh
doesn't
my
I
write
have a
it.
I
choice.
want you to
Butler
know
doesn't
later in the
write
book,
it.
she do
And I'm
say,
not hearing from her
this
POV
is
what
jumping
happened.
ahead. It's not a spoiler. Later in the book, she do express displeasure. So I'm just gonna
Expressing.
say,
Go ahead.
no, she not down. She not down for the cause. Well, I'm late to Pilates. I know we running over. She's not she's down for the cause in as much as she don't really have a choice. It's like Stockholm syndrome. These are her captors. She's stuck with them. She is trauma bonded to her captors.
Yeah,
The
she
correct
is.
definition of trauma bonding, not what people on internet say. She is trauma bonded to her captors, meaning she, for all intents if purposes, is gonna keep having children because she might as fucking well. She don't really like. I don't think she's as happy to be a part of it because again, she mentioned throughout the book from beginning to end, it's never giving joyful, joyful Lord, we adore you. It's giving, I gotta do this shit. I'm tired. It's giving the Popeyes lady after they had that chicken sandwich. It's giving, I'm gonna have to do it.
No. I'm
No,
just trying to. I'm interested because I'm going back to Anyanwu, who said that she was happy with the situation. She partnered. She made a decision. She took care of the kids under Doro for his vision. She stayed around. She made sure they were okay. Her
He said
decision.
it from, we heard it from her
Hold on.
mouth. She
She
opened
said
up
she
her lips.
believed in it. Not I believed in it. I believed in it. She wanted to. If Lilith has Stockholm syndrome, then Yanwu had Stockholm syndrome, and we need to keep an even energy there.
So
Oh,
Lilith,
that's
also,
let me say
definitely
this. So
true though.
Lilith, so Lilith, the difference is the Unicali, intentionally poisoned the other humans against her. And so her biggest goal was to get to Earth and then we could restart some stuff or whatever else. And she probably would have went with them and sided with them if she could have got there. But they poisoned the other humans against her, made her the boogeyman, and made her a scapegoat. So now she has nothing.
Did they?
So she has no she
they
has
said she got
nothing.
horns. She
She
said, well,
has
I don't know if that's in the
nothing.
part. She don't
No,
got
I'm
nothing. She got to
asking.
stick with them.
I'm asking. You said the Onkali poisoned the humans against her. Did they? That's
No, well, the humans poisoned themselves against her, but she still
correct.
cannot go back to her own people. So
But
she
they did.
again is stuck with the Owen Collie because she can't go to humanity. She don't want to be by herself, and she can't be by herself, and she still has her children. Like they still play a role
But
in
they
like
placed her in that
The,
position.
the reason why I say the Owen Collie poisoned the other humans against her was that everything she tried to do so that she would not be the center of their anger and whatever else they rejected. So when she told them like, okay, it shouldn't just be me, you guys should be here too, they rejected it. When she talked to them about telling them like, you guys need to present what it is you want and all the rest of it, everything she tried to do so that they would not misplace that anger onto her, like she is the one to do that. They just completely they did that. So to me it's like the humans eventually did that to them, saying this is some other stuff, but they put her in impossible scenarios and put the other humans in impossible scenarios. And then the horrible thing is that they took those humans and they brought them down to earth without her, and then they gave
That's
her all
group
of this stuff.
one. She has since awakened 3 groups total. So we're going from Dawn. I'm talking about adulthood rights. She is
Yeah,
not a captive.
yeah,
Not a captive. She's
she's
one
straight
of
up
them.
Stockholm though.
She's one of them.
She's not a captive, but let's take it back to Dom right quick. Her and the Conj were having sex for a really long time before they even met the man to have the threesome with.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we not? And then it's like, okay, you're alien, but if you're giving me the greatest pleasure that I've ever had in my life, how is that not coercion? How how like why do you shake your head every time I say that Lilith is turned out? She was turned out by them
I am
aliens.
not shaking my head at turned out. What I am saying is that whether she's turned out or not, she's still making a decision to stay in it. Indy says she's living her best life. She's still deciding, right? And I don't want us to absolve Lilith from any responsibility, because she can decide to stop teaching. Even at the end of Dawn, they said, you decided to stop teaching. They're going to have to learn slower. They made a decision to unalive you. We're going to keep you up here with us at the end of this book. But because you made a decision, then we had to make a decision. She's not powerless. And so what I'm just trying to get us to do is be fair, because y'all crucified Anyanwu for deciding to go along with the plan with Doro, for deciding to keep an eye out for the kids. In Mind of My Mind, y'all had no sympathy for her. Zero.
I have less sympathy for Anyanwu because Doro didn't have there. In my opinion, there was no advantages to Doro.
They had great sex.
And that's it. At least with the Owen Collie, they're having great sex,
Yes.
and they're healing, and they're healing, and they're
Anyanwu
healing.
could heal herself.
And you don't want for anything with the Owen Collie too.
Anyanwu didn't want for anything either. She was self-sustaining. She can heal her own body, and she was able to have a partner for the rest of her life. I'm just going the sex route because you went that route. They had great sex because they were able to swap spirits. Like, they were one. What I'm curious about is why we are more sympathetic or empathetic to one and not the other. That's all.
I think because Ayanu had purpose and she could do. So I'm not as sympathetic to her because I felt like she had power to walk away. I don't think Lilith has power to walk away. I don't think Lilith has the same kind of power in which to be able to, because and Yahoo could go and make a village in Louisiana and do all kinds of other stuff. She had power where she could have like just been continually running away from him and doing whatever. She had some control. Whereas Lilith, I don't think she has any power.
She had power until he threatened her children.
Now she doesn't have any, like, where can she go? What can she do? Like, she can't go to the humans because they hate her. They see her as their whore. They see her as a betrayer. They see her as all these evil things or whatever else. She's not going to be satisfied going back up to the ship. So what can she do? So she doesn't have any power. So the main difference is the other one, she had power. Like, she could have been made her whole entire life as a dolphin or whatever other animal that she could have been. She had power. She had choice. Whereas this other one did not at all.
So you're saying
I agree.
You're saying it was better for her, even though her children were human on Earth, that she could have just stayed as a dolphin, though that's not her true form, and that is not who she is in essence. But you want her to stay on the run.
But she could have been.
That's being on the run.
But she could have done that. She could have stayed on the run. She could have stayed on the run. She could have went to different parts of the world. She could have did all. To me, I felt like
she could have been different animals.
Yes, different animals. She could have did all kinds of stuff.
So, like, y'all trying to subject this?
I think she does have more agency than Lilith does. I think Anyanwu does have a little bit more agency because of that animal factor. I do see Dr. Whiteside, the similarities between the two situations, but Anyanwu had more power than Lilith has. It's just, I mean, she could compare a little bit to Doro, Anyanwu could, but Lilith is no match for the Oncology. There's just no match there.
Let me pause, because Butler was clear that yes, Anyanwu had power, but Doro can snatch her body. So when we're thinking about the power,
he had to catch her first. He had to catch her first.
He can catch her.
Whenever she was an animal, she didn't know where the hell she was.
So you want her to not know where she is? Like, listen, Tina, I hear you, but it doesn't make sense.
She had more agency.
It doesn't. She could have
avoid being a dolphin. She could have went on the rest of her life being a dolphin.
But her children, the people that she loved, this is what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. They're both in impossible situations. But it's seeming that we're having, when we're stacking power, we can't stack power like, oh, Lilith is human and they're alien, right? Lilith is other than too, right? So while the Owen Collie have whatever, we may feel like they have oppressed her in some type of way, Doro had direct access to oppress Anyanwu. And if he could not get to her, he was killing all of her lineage, right? So if we have sympathy For the mothers, they both are mothers. We have to keep the same energy for both of them. That's all I'm saying. Doro literally told her, "I will take your body and I will call them with your mouth."
Sympathy for Enyawu. I have sympathy for them both, but I don't think I would go as far as saying that Lilith is complacent. And I think because those times that she did go off into the wilderness by herself, she would try to stay away. She resented Nakaj, but then eventually she would have to come back. And I think that was the biological imprint that the Onkali had on her.
So what's the difference? Thank you for saying that. So what's the difference between Anyanwu going off? She goes off into those other forms. You see when she's expressing grief and her son and her maid or someone who worked on the place for her, one of her longest friends, dies. She has to go off. The same thing Lilith is doing. She has to leave.
But Anyamu didn't have a biological imprint with Doro
on her children. The imprint is the kids there. This is I'm saying what all I'm trying to get us to understand. I want us to be fair. We have crucified majority of these protagonists, laid them to the cross. Now, and to be fair to y'all, Butler, I'm just saying, y'all nailed them to the cross. To be fair to y'all, Butler does leave out a lot of information, right? And we haven't really seen Lilith fully realized and actualized in this book. As a matter of fact, thank you, Sam. As a matter of fact, I think there's a point in the archive where Butler calls Lilith a liability to her son, right? So all I'm saying is that we have to be fair. We just got to be fair. Different situations, very similar, but I want us to be fair. If we're going to express the dislike, I want us to be able to express the dislike for some of the choices and the decisions that Lilith made, because both of them made decisions under pressure.
I think that it's hard for me to...
I think that describes the definition of a flawed victim.
Let Yash go.
I think that describes a flawed victim.
A what?
A flawed victim. So meaning they are a victim, but they're not completely blameless, or maybe they've made decisions that everybody doesn't agree with. Mm-hmm. But in these situations, both Anyawu and Lilith are victims.
I agree with you. I agree.
I have more sympathy for Lilith than I do for Anyamu, because in my mind, Anyamu was just as powerful as Doro. And we can argue about their powers, but I saw Anyamu as Doro's equal. So to just see her just give in to that man, it was just like, come on, girl, because you was doing fine on your own. As opposed to Lilith got saved by the aliens.
So she was doing fine on her own before Doro. Once of higher God. So Butler is clear. Anyamu was not powerless. I'm giving you that, Yash. But she was no match for Doro. This is what Butler writes. She's not a match for him. So in the ways in which he could probably manipulate and twist the people who didn't have Anyamu's power, she was not untouchable. We also have to think about the emotional manipulation here, right? She is mentally bound in some way, emotionally bound in some way to someone who was her husband, someone who she's lived years for. So all I'm saying is that I just want us to be fair in our critiques of everybody. And I know Lilith has fallen to the background, but so did Anyawu fall into the background in Mind of My Mind. And y'all still went in on her. That's all I'm saying. No one is perfect in these texts, but I got to stir the pot. We got to be fair. I got to stir the pot. We over time. Y'all got me arguing and we over time. Lord have mercy, y'all making me talk. I'm gonna see y'all next week. Chat, y'all got anything in the chat? I know we be going back and forth up here. It's all in love. I'm gonna do my best to get this up tonight since I got time and I'm out of town later this week. If y'all don't got anything in the chat, I'll see y'all next week for the last part of Adulthood Rites. Oh, I got a question before we get to the last part of Adulthood Rites and then start Imago. The next section, and I do want to kind of see what y'all think. The next section of the course, which is part 4, we're gonna look at. We have one book left, Fledgling, and then a collection of short stories. So I guess the question that I have is, which book should we do first? The collection of short stories or Fledgling? If we do the collection of short stories, I just want to be honest and say we're going to do that in 1 week. We're not breaking it up over 2 weeks. So we're going to hit all the short stories in 1 week. So do y'all want to read the short stories first, or do y'all want to read Fledgling first? Just keep in mind that we do take a week break between these sections.
I vote Fledgling just because I know my good girl in the corner has been wanting to read that one.
Fledgling. We got 1 for short stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Fledgling, 7 for Fledgling.
Yeah, Fledgling.
Okay, so we're gonna end on the short stories last. Okay, so I just needed to know so I can construct the syllabus and figure out how to do the next part. All right, y'all. So Adulthood Rites part 2 next week, and I will see y'all. Bye. This was a good class. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.